Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. Here you will learn all things related to healing from divorce, mind, body, and spirit, so you can create a beautiful new life filled with happiness. I'm Rachel Ruby, author of Divorce to Bliss, divorce coach, speaker, and attorney, and I'm so glad you found me here. Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. I'm Rachel Ruby. And if you are listening and watching on YouTube, please do me a huge favor and subscribe, turn on notifications, like, comment, and share so that I can continue to bring you more wonderful podcasts and amazing guests like my guest today. My guest is Ruchi Thalwal, and she is a former periodontist turned spiritual mentor. She helps genuine spiritual seekers on their journey of self-discovery and realization through intuitive coaching. Ruchi works to help transform people's anxiety into joy through the attainment of higher consciousness. And I discovered her through her beautiful spiritual writings on Medium, which is an online platform for writers to share their incredible stories and wisdom. And I just fell in love with what she writes and look forward to reading it multiple times a week. Thank you so much for being here, Ruchi. I really am excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So let's kind of dive into this a little bit. I think, like I said, our topic today is listening to the heart to promote healing. And a lot of people don't really know what that means. And in even the bigger picture of that, a lot of people don't really understand what spirituality means outside of maybe a religious context. And I have always said that in order to heal, we have to heal the body, the mind, and the spirit. And so one of the biggest questions I get from people is, how do I heal my spirit? What does that mean? Right? So let's kind of jump into the be all end all, or I guess the foundation of spirituality, which is love. We often talk about love as being the foundation of everything, including personal growth. And this pertains to the healing journey as well. So can you explain this concept of love as the foundation and why it's so important to listen to the heart and to have that love within ourselves?
Love is the foundation of our being, not just in relationships, but it is the very foundation from where we begin. Like, just look at a child, how innocent, how lovely they are, without even uttering a word. They are full of themselves and full of love. We feel love from them. But when we grow up, the definition of love changes. Like, it just becomes more transactional. Like, you give me something and I give you something back. It can be comfort, security, or just understanding, or anything. Like even a subtle thing, if we ask from someone instead of love, then that becomes transactional. And the definition of love changes entirely. And when we talk of love as being, as in purity, in full innocence, that is where the person heals. And that is the actual journey of spirituality, by knowing oneself, by knowing that love that we are. How? By shedding what we are not.
Shedding what we are not?
Yes.
Okay.
Like we think that in a relationship, like we think we are a partner, we are a mother, we are something else to the other person, and we try to fit into that role. We try to be that role model of being a mother, of being a partner, of being a healthy, anything. But it can't happen until and unless we are we. it can't happen until you are you, entirely you. When you are in that space of love, only then you can give that love to others. Until unless you are just asking that love from someone else, and from that space, from that thing, from that transaction, all the hurt, expectations, and everything just begins and rolls out of our control.
Yeah. So what you're saying, I believe, is that we need to I need to love me first. You need to love you first before you can love another, right? Because even though the role might define you in this relationship, let's say a marriage where we love each other, you are a wife, you are a husband, you are the spouse. And if you don't love yourself, if you don't know how to love you and who you are, and like you said, that means being who you are, being true, being yourself, right? So if you don't love that yourself, and if you're not being true, then you don't love yourself, correct? Yes. So if you can't do that, then how can you love another being completely, right?
Yes. Yes. Love is sharing of yourself. And you can't share yourself until unless you are full of yourself, of your love. And loving yourself is just I think it is a step, and it is the destination also. These baby steps that we try to discover ourselves through small things. We try to explore life. We try to express ourselves through anything, through creativity, or just by singing or dancing and enjoying that thing. It is a start. It is just a start. And from there, we just deepen ourselves, deepen our bonding with ourselves, deepen our real self by giving away, by shedding all the layers. And that is spirituality. I think I'm going from relationship to spirituality.
No, it's beautiful. So when we're talking about divorce in particular, and which is a trauma, and how can going through something like that, some kind of a trauma, be seen as a sign to heal? How can we look at that as, or is it a sign to heal? And where do we go from there?
Like, we don't go to a doctor when we are healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
We just live our lives like anything. We don't feel our hand or our toe unless it is paining. If there is a pain, then that body part becomes very much visible to ourselves, right? So whenever there is a trauma, or whenever there is something within the heart which hurts, it can be anything like divorce or heartbreak or anything. And that is a thing that pulls your attention to where it needs to go. Like when you have a pain in your hand, you know that there is a pain in your hand and you have to look to it. You have to thank that part. So in trauma, in hurt, actually, or in emotional hurt, in any emotional hurt, it is pulling your attention to the thing, to that part of your heart which needs your love and attention. So that is,
okay.
Yes, it is a sign.
Yeah.
Hurt.
So, well, I had mentioned before, kind of listening to our heart, and so you're saying it, just like if something were hurting, if your hand was hurting or your leg was hurting, you would have to go see a doctor or figure out what was causing it to hurt. And it's the same concept with when you are ending a relationship, is just figuring out what's making the heart hurt, correct? And I think a lot of times in divorce, or after people come through divorce, at least the people that I coach, they want so much to heal, but they don't know how. And it takes a lot of introspection, a lot of diving deep into that heart and what we're feeling there. Just like you said, just like if we had a hand that was hurting, we would have to find out why. Why is it hurting so we can heal it, right? So it's listening to your heart. But a lot of people don't know how to do that. So it's a journey. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is baby steps toward that knowing yourself, toward being yourself, that will heal. Actually, people get into a relationship and then they get over it and they don't really like to find that hurt which is there. Evasion is more common than going to the deep cause of that thing. So
Yes.
until there is that evasion, you want to run away from that hurt and you don't want to feel the pain. Healing is like a very long journey. It will become a very long journey.
Mm-hmm.
So you
But
have
if
to
we
look.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Right? You have to look into that hurt, into that pain. Yes, it will be painful because there is a lot of trauma inside. Nobody likes to look into it, and we just try to ignore it. We just try to distract ourselves from it. But healing is not possible through that. Total healing, yes, a complete healing happens when you just embrace yourself. The pain also, not just the good part, but also the hurt, the pain, the tears, the heartbreak, everything. Yes, that is ugly, but that is important too.
Right. And I always talk about that, how, people want to either not deal with it, like you said, and just be evasive and just, I'll be fine. And not go into that. But when you can't heal completely, and at some point in time, when something else happens that is difficult or traumatic, that will all bubble up. And so that is why it is so important to heal and go through the work. And it's called work because it's not supposed to be easy, right? It's labor. It's hard work. It's hard to get to know yourself. And it takes time. It does take time. And people always ask me, how long will this healing take? And I say, it's up to you. And it might take years. And, I also, part of me thinks we're never truly healed, right? But that's why I always say the work never ends. And people say, when will I be healed? And I say, well, you might heal from this divorce, but you always have to keep working on you because we constantly evolve, right? And so we need to constantly understand who we are, and we might be a different person next week than we were yesterday. So yeah, it's beautiful work. It's work, but it's beautiful work, and it allows you to really create a life that is joyous and blissful and be and do whatever you want when you are clear and you know who you are in your heart. So it's like putting on some glasses when you can't see, right? So, so when it comes to divorce, there's so much stigma that surrounds it. And that comes from family, from culture, from religion and society. And how can one transcend beyond this trauma to, well, we kind of already talked about this, to put the self first and heal. Like you said, a lot of people don't want to heal, but the people who do want to heal, they say, hey, I want to heal. I want to have happiness in my life. I want to have joy in my life again. How can we get past this stigma that kind of sometimes envelopes us? Because it's coming from so many different places. How can we get past that so we can move forward and heal?
Yes. So support is definitely necessary when we go through that journey. And there will be many, many people against you who don't want, who actually are fearful and who project their fear to you. So this society, the people who are not supporting you and who are the culture or anything that we think we are a part of it. So they are themselves fearful. They have their own patterns. They don't want to go outside of it. But when a person really wants to heal, they will obviously jump through that conditionings. And a healing also is very courageous thing because it is a very lonely way and a very lonely, it becomes lonely at times because most of the time we are with ourselves and very few people are there to support us. So it is a very courageous journey. And when a person really had that wish, that courage will give them that power to go beyond that conditioning. They will see that this is the roadblock, that they are themselves stuck. They can't help you because they are themselves at that fearful point, fearful juncture. And till the time you are in that circle, till the time you associate with these kind of people, you will remain stuck. Obviously, we live in a society, we have to deal with people, but how you feel within your heart matters, not how you deal with other people. If you are satisfied within yourself, you will be free to deal with them, howsoever they are. But if you are not there yet, so definitely these people who are themselves fearful are also our teachers. They are not actually against us. They are projecting their fear onto us, and if we are conscious to see that fear, we actually resolve our own fear.
Yeah.
So they are stepping part of our journey. They are also stepping part. So courage actually comes from heart. It cannot come from intellect. Intellect wants safety. The mind wants to be in a group. The mind wants to prove itself. But real joyful life comes from heart. So that is why the heart is very vulnerable. Yes, you will cry. Most of the time, tears will go, you will feel sad, but in the end, and it will make you so powerful that nobody can stop you from your healing if you are in that point, in that juncture of yourself.
Yeah. That's powerful. That's so true. And you mentioned about a couple things that I agree with very strongly. And one is getting the support. And then the other is being alone. And I think that let's take the alone part first, because so many people are so scared of being alone. And that is one of the two biggest fears, in my opinion, when it comes to divorce. And so many people will come out of the marriage, and whether they start the healing work or not, will immediately try to find a partner to replace the one that they just lost because they are so afraid of being alone. But you mentioned, and I agree 100%, that healing means that you have to learn to be alone with yourself, because you learn so much about yourself when you are with yourself. And I remember when I started my journey, and I was going through my divorce, and I had so many people who were in my support network who said to me, Rachel, are you sure you want to get divorced? You've been with this man for 30 years, raised a family, this and that. You're going to be all alone, and you might not find somebody. You might not find another person to be with. And I said, and I knew in my heart that in order for me to heal, I had to tell myself that, yes, there is a chance that I might be alone for the rest of my life. And I had to be okay with that. And I was, but a lot of people have such a hard time with that. They can't get past that fear of not being part of a partnership. So that's a hard thing to work on. And especially if you have people in your support network who love you, telling you, you should get back out and date. You should go meet some people. You should, go hang out with people you're, at this party or at this bar, or go to this event because maybe you'll meet somebody. But I think that to do the healing work, you have to be okay with the being alone part. And you have to actually embrace that. And I love being alone. I think it's a wonderful thing. And yes, it can get lonely sometimes. And that's when you have your support network. But you have to learn to be okay with being alone. Would you agree with that?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Aloneness is not a bad thing. It is very powerful, like you said. It is the loneliness that people feel after divorce, and they don't want to feel lonely. And we have to cover the journey from that loneliness to aloneness. Aloneness is so much satisfying when you are with yourself, when you just love being yourself. And we are trained to love the other so that we get that approval and validation from other for our own being. And we don't need that. True. We just need ourselves. We just need to be ourselves to share that being which we are.
Right.
We don't need validations.
Yeah. I love that. That's so true. And it's a great reminder. Again, the healing work is work. And this is part of it. And for some people, I feel that this part, the being alone part, the not running back out to find someone to replace the other someone who you're no longer with, is one of the hardest parts of healing. So, if you can, there are steps you can take to learn to be alone. That, I coach people through that, and I think it can take time, but it can be done. It's not something that you can't do. If you want to do it, and you want to love yourself, and you want to heal so you can be happy, you can do it. So, yeah. What about, let's see, we've talked a lot about kind of mentioned spirituality, but what are some other things that people can do, like actual tasks, actual steps to start healing from that spiritual perspective, besides learning to love yourself and learning to not be learning to be alone and embrace that? What else can people do to kind of start on that spiritual journey?
Spiritual journey.
Yeah.
Actually, spirituality is a way of life. Mm-hmm. We tend to think that spirituality is something different from the way we live, but it is a way to live consciously. Mm-hmm. Like, we can wash the dishes, but we can be conscious of it. We can attach one thing, that is consciousness or awareness, to the task that we do. If that is an intellectual task, or if that is a repetitive task of doing something like washing dishes or making a PPT or anything else, or walking also, we can add awareness to those activities. Apart from that, we can meditate. Meditation is a very foundation of being in the silence. Many people like noise in their life. They want to be a part of that noisy world that is clanging all over our heads. But silence is something that brings our being that is scattered in the world and anchored into that stillness that we are. So meditation just breaks that pattern. Meditation brings you back into that stillness, into that silence. And meditation can be a daily routine to get cut from those patterns, to be more aware, to increase our consciousness. So meditation is one thing, being aware in our regular things that we do is another, and being heartful. It is, like I always said in my coaching, that these three things, mindfulness, that is conscious awareness, and meditation, and heartfulness. Heartfulness is something that brings us down from intellect to our heart. It connects to the power of our heart, like singing, dancing, doing anything that you feel passionate about. It is like exploring yourself. It is like a journey, self-discovery that you can do.
Yeah. I meditate. I mean, I just did a podcast on meditation, and meditation for me was a game changer, and still is, and every day. And something else that really got me through my personal healing journey was dance. And I actually stopped listening to most music because a lot of music is very, a lot of music is about relationships and breakups and things like that. And so I only listened for several years to spiritual music that made me feel good. And I'm not religious music, but just beautiful music that made me feel good. There are many, actual new age spiritual artists today who are incredible. And so I would listen to that music and I would dance. And almost every single night I would just dance. And for me, I was a dancer for many years as a child, but for me, that dance was such a release. And it just cleared my whole being. It made me feel good. And it just let me I just let myself go. And it was just a wonderful way to heal. So I love the idea of doing something creative like that, where you can really release, some of the negativity or whatever's, clouding your mind, so that you can kind of come back to the heart, come back to the self. And I think that both of those things, the dancing, the meditation, and listening to the music that makes you feel good, all of those things really allow you to be more perceptive and to concentrate on being present, which is what you were talking about. Not just going through the motions of doing something, but just being present with what you're doing, even if it's doing dishes or drinking a cup of tea. And those things, that's actually a great place to start, right? In this whole spiritual journey. Yeah. Is there anything else you can think of for someone who's new to the whole concept of spirituality? And granted, I know you said that spirituality is a way of living life, and I agree with that. But so many people don't understand it and don't know how to start. And to someone who understands it, it seems simple, like, oh, you have to open your heart and you have to, be present. And maybe can you think of maybe something mundane or some kind of task that we do every day that somebody might focus on from a perspective of being present and not just getting through it? Can you maybe give an example of that people might, relate to?
Yes, one thing that came to my mind was laughter. Like, just laugh.
Laugh. Yes.
Like
I love laughter.
Yes. Yes, that would be a start. Just laugh your heart out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everything
I did a lot of that too. Yeah.
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 Yes. So spirituality is not being serious, like many people would like to think. It is being a child and through a very conscious way. So we have to just get into touch, into that innocence that we are. We are not the cleverness, we are not that cunningness that we think we are. We just, yes, I'm this, I'm that. We are not those things. We are very innocent beings in our heart. So, yes, laughter is one thing, and playing with kids, being with pets, that opens your heart, doing what you love. That can be a start for any person.
Yeah. I agree. I think I've said this. I said this in my book, and I say this often, that letting the inner child out is huge when it comes to healing. And I learned in my own journey that my inner child had actually been dormant or sleeping for many years, because when I started my healing journey, I did a lot of, and I still do a lot of laughing. And I try every single day to do things that are childlike, because it really is a release to your body and your mind and your spirit to not always be so serious and to enjoy just being, right? And that's a great way to do it. Just to laugh. Yeah. Yeah. So that's wonderful. Is there anything else you'd like to add about opening the heart, or starting a spiritual practice so you can heal? Anything else that comes to mind?
For healing, sleep is very necessary. Yeah, we overlook our sleep.
Yes.
So sleeping deeply and in a meditative way, it heals the heart and body. So doing meditation before sleep is like, I just love it. And I always recommend doing it, because the sleep will become meditative. Or you can do any creative work before sleeping. Creativity, or any kind of singing, dancing, or just doing. I did embroidery for a very long time before sleeping. Now I meditate before sleeping. So you can mix and match, like anything. Sleep is very.
I also love writing in my journal. And sometimes I do that in the morning. Sometimes I do that more often at night. And I think that that is very therapeutic, and it's almost a little bit meditative, because you are putting down your thoughts and your feelings and it doesn't even matter. You don't have to be a writer to write in a journal, but it's such an important thing to do. And it's a great thing to do, I think, before bed, because it allows you to, I always say, kind of take whatever on my shoulders and I put it on those pages, and then I can let it go. So if I do that before bed, I feel like it's almost a little bit of a release, and then I'm ready. But I love that idea of writing in a journal. And for the other reason that as you go through the healing process, you can look back, and oftentimes we don't realize we've come far, we've made steps or improvements. But when we look back at what we wrote and we see, wow, look how far I've come, it makes us feel good. Yeah. Oh, I really like that idea. And the other thing you mentioned, doing all these creative things, which is wonderful. And so many people will watch television or be on their phone, before they go to bed, and the bright lights, and those things need to be turned off. But a couple hours before bed, maybe, or right? Because we don't want to disrupt the sleep. Do you agree with that?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So, well, this has been very informative, and lots of great ideas on how to use, to come into your spirituality, open your heart, and learn how to heal from a spiritual perspective. And I appreciate you being here and sharing all these wonderful ideas. How
Thank you.
can, how can the viewers and listeners reach you? I especially would love people to see your writing, and I know you offer more. So can you share where people can find you online?
Yes, you can read my articles on medium.com. And I have a
Medium.com.
newsletter also. Yes. And I have a newsletter also where they can subscribe, and
Okay.
they'll get a free healing meditation also when they subscribe.
Wonderful.
So I'll give you the link.
Yeah, so I'll put the link up on YouTube for those who are watching, and I'll put it in the show notes on all of the audio channels. So you'll be able to see where to reach Ruchi and read her beautiful writings and find her meditative practices and other wonderful information. So thank you so much for being here with me today. I really appreciate
Thank you, Rachel.
And yeah, it was wonderful.